Welcome to Modern Anarchy, the podcast exploring sex, relationships, and liberation. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole.
I tried to keep her quiet, but she's screaming inside of me. I tried to keep her hiding, oh, shut up. I tried to keep her quiet, but she's a wild, wild woman.
On today's episode, we have Justine. Join us for a conversation about the adult word pleasure. Together, we talk about how sex education differs across the states, when receiving pleasure is difficult, and moving through a miscarriage. Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to Modern Anarchy. I'm so happy that you are here, so happy that you're tuning in for another episode each Wednesday. My name is Dr. Nicole. I'm a sex and relationship psychotherapist providing psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, author of the Psychedelic Jealousy Guide, and founder of the Pleasure Practice, where I support individuals in crafting expansive sex lives and intimate relationships. Dear listener, the humanness of it all, the burnt out libido. I think all of us pleasure activists have been here before, especially with summer and all of the events and activity and experiences that start coming up in this time. Wow, what an invitation to slow down. What an invitation to honor your capacity, your time, your ability. Dear listener, I just want to invite you to feel into your body right now. Are there areas, aspects of your life that need more tending to? Do you need more rest in this season? Because your rest is revolutionary, and it is so, so important that you're tending to the care that you need to provide to the people in your communities, because the more that we do that on the individual and our small collectives, the more that will continue to ripple out and create that other world that we dream of, a world where these systems are not what they are, a world where we are able to tap into more pleasure collectively. All right, dear listener, if you are ready to liberate your pleasure, you can explore my free offerings and resources at modernanarchypodcast.com. And I also want to say the biggest thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you for supporting this movement. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for making this show possible for the last 5 years. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, dear listener, please know that I'm sending you all my love, and let's tune in to today's episode. Dear listener, there's a space already waiting for you where you are invited to let go of every old script about sex and relationships and begin living a life rooted in your pleasure, empowerment, and deep alignment. I'm Dr. Nicole, and this is your invitation to the Pleasure Liberation Groups, a transformative, educational, and deeply immersive experience designed for visionary individuals like you. Together, we'll gather in community to explore desire, expand relational wisdom, and embody the lives we're here to lead. Each session is woven with practices, teachings, and the kind of connection that makes real transformation possible. And I'll be right there with you, guiding the process with an embodied curriculum that supports both personal and collective liberation. This is your invitation into the next chapter of your erotic evolution. Say yes to your pleasure and visit modernanarchypodcast.com/pleasure practice to apply. And the first question that I ask every guest on the show is, how would you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, I'm Justine, and I am a tired sex educator.
I hear that. Justine, tell me what the exhaustion. Tell me what's going on for you.
I had a very big ignited flame. What was that? In 2008, when I started this journey, working in an 8th grade classroom, and I had taught students who were pregnant but in 8th grade, who were already parents but still in 8th grade,
Yeah.
and a particular student who showed up for half the school year because she had a period, and every time it happened, she just thought she was sick and broken, so she wouldn't come to school.
Gosh.
And she failed 8th grade 3 years in a row. And so this 6-week summer school experience as a math teacher was really the origin story of my sex ed journey.
Wow.
Because I was tasked to teach math, but clearly there was a health disparity that nobody was willing to address, impacting their ability to achieve in mathematics.
Yep.
And yet people were just still teaching us young teachers how to teach to a math test and nothing of actual relevance to them.
Gosh.
And so I was so invigorated and, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed that I could do something about, the American public education system through health education. And for the last 15 years, I have absolutely answered that call. And not just because of the current political climate, but sexuality has always been stigmatized, always been marginalized. And I've just always been in this uphill battle, whether it be in, personal one-on-one conversations with parents of schools that I'm working in, or Sean Hannity on Fox News. And so the battles just feel so big that I just keep saying to myself optimistically, well, I'll have a job forever. But the actual goal is that I won't have a job in this because people will already be so sex positive and affirming of bodies and promoting pleasure and their liberation. But I'm also human. And I have other, identities besides being an educator.
Right.
And I'm feeling like some of those identities and those roles and interests are getting compromised because of how much is just being sucked out of the one identity as a sex educator. So I'm tired.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still passionate, but I'm also wanting to, prepare to be a good ancestor, to pass down the torch and the baton, because I don't know how much more I have left in me to keep being the one to lead the charge.
Yeah, which is important to recognize for yourself, right? Where is the pleasure calling to you? And you have so much wisdom that you can share with other people who are ready to pick up that torch and are feeling that same fire and that liberation. And so it sounds like that transformation into your role that you play in the revolution.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. But it's I've been confronted with that more recently as I got married, want to start a family, and I'm so tired that I don't feel like I can invest in those parts of my life in the way that I would want to, because I'm so passionate and energetic and putting all that energy into sex education that is often very thankless.
Yeah.
And not profitable. So, so it's making me just like, okay, you want to start this family. That means money in this century, even though, it might seem easy or a given thing for people to just pop out kids. But I'm a very intentional person, and I've planned on always having a planned parenthood, and I am now planning for that. And
absolutely.
That takes energy and time.
Oh, huge amounts of energy and time. And our current climate is hostile in America to planning for a family.
Yeah.
You have to have so much privilege and abundance to be able to pay for those things. And so it's important to recognize how hostile this space is, and all the changes that are happening even to insurance right now. I mean, like, it is not. So it makes sense that you're really having to sit at the intersections of the politics of this work for your
Right.
own personal life
Right.
and the professional space. And as we talked about a little bit before even getting on to here, like that martyrdom complex of I must give, especially
Mhm.
in motherhood and all of that that comes out. Like
Right.
it's beautiful to be setting that boundary for yourself to say, like, I need a shift in this because I have other priorities. I'm not just this martyrless sex educator who's going to
Yeah.
keep giving, giving, giving and burning out.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying.
Totally, totally. And even myself today, I was in supervision. I continue to seek supervision for therapy work. I think it's a weird job. It's a weird job of like so many
Yeah.
relationships. And so I love having mentors who I can like process the
Totally.
ever evolving reality of this. And for me recently, I had a couple of clients who actually go to the same play party spaces that I've been going to for years.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
And
fun.
so, right, I was like, I'm like crying in supervision. Do I have to give up my space
Yeah.
in this community because of the professionalism and what that
Right.
requires out of these?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I feel you just
Real.
in the work of this of like, okay, I'm an educator in this space, and what does that mean for my own personal life?
Yeah.
And what does that mean for my goals? And it's a
Yeah.
lot to sit through because like you named too, like sexuality has so much stigma. And so when you're thinking about family who might be tuning into this conversation,
Right.
we're navigating so many multiple layers of like double think of what is this
Right.
person going to think? What is that person going to think? What will my licensing board think if, you know, this situation, like it is a lot to think about all of the political context. And here we
Right.
are trying to like bring this liberation
Yeah.
and we have to sit with all of this nuance.
Yeah. And being reminded about how so much of that infrastructure is built on white supremacist tenets. And yet we're trying to really just burn that whole house down to build a brand new one when we're really just doing little renovations bedroom by bedroom
Yep.
and hoping it doesn't just get re-renovated again by the people that actually have power.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of like, how do you play this game that was never built for you while still also maybe on the side creating a brand new house that everyone can move to later
Yeah.
and that you might never live in because you'll be dead by then
Right.
and you be okay with that? It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Juggling so many different hats. And so hence where you're thinking about handing that torch down to recognize how after we die, there's going to be some younger, passionate, liberated person who's like, I got this, right? And that's a huge part of this work is dreaming and knowing that another world is possible
Yeah.
while also existing in the current context that we're in
Yeah.
and really challenging those systems.
Right. And building that legacy while you're still here. Yeah.
I'm curious for you, if we dream of that new world, what do you see? You know, you said the other house that we hope we could
Yeah.
step into. Like, I love dreaming and I'd be curious.
It actually feels really optimistic, only just because of the experiences that I've had with my Gen Z students who have now already graduated college and seeing what they're doing with that and how different it was for me post college and how like stunted and restricted I felt, but how much audacity they have and the leaders that they're able to look up to that are almost just like just above their peer group. I mean, thinking about like any of my Gen Z students who are, let's say, 25 years old, and they have a new mayor in New York City that is just 8 years older than them,
Right.
right? Is like, whoa. Like, I still had to think about Mayor Giuliani, right? And I'm like, okay, this is just how it's always going to look like. Okay, there's Bloomberg. Like, they just all look the same. Like, and to know that, especially my students of color who are no longer students and very much, you know, maybe even like running that campaign, seeing the fruits of that labor pretty immediately versus us in our generation, like, we had to do so many like decades until we finally saw people that looked like us or believed in our same value systems, whatever. I feel like they're so fueled and they see more immediate impact with their activism than the slow outcomes of mine. So I have a lot of optimism that they have already gone to Lowe's, bought all of the supplies and they already have the blueprints,
Yeah.
ready to start building. And, they want me as an elder to come in and like maybe consult once in a while, but then basically tell me, we got this. We just wanted to
Yeah.
confirm this is what you were, radically teaching us when we were in
Yeah.
high school,
Right.
right? Because you're one of the few elders that already like got it when we were
Mm.
young.
Mm.
And then I'm learning a lot from them too about things that I haven't kept up with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of optimism, and that's exciting. And I rarely turn down mentorships for
Mm.
young BIPOC public health professionals because all of my mentors were white men because it's all who I had, and in public health. And as that started to evolve and change, I'm excited to be able to pass down what I know to the little me's that are looking for, similar support.
Hmm.
So optimistic is
Oh, so
overall like
good.
how I'm feeling, which is nice. So
I
like
love
I can
that.
die and it's going to be in good hands because I feel like
Yes.
I'm already seeing the change now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so exciting to think about that, right? The places that they're going to go to specifically because they get to stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And so knowing that they're already starting with this landscape, granted, it's really
Right.
complex
Right.
now, right? It's always complex, but they get to stand on the shoulders of those giants and keep running further and further. And I think it's really important as educators or anybody in this space to acknowledge that my frame, my lens, all of our lenses are impacted by our cultural conditioning, our generational conditioning, and all of that. And so I repeatedly tell people, like, there's absolutely going to be some fiery, liberatory activist who comes up and is like, hey, Dr. Nicole, you missed all of these parts. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
you're right. I
Yeah.
absolutely did because I'm the product of my environment and like I'm
Yeah.
trying every day. But Lord
Yeah.
knows we're not going to be at the end of that point where we figure it out. And so the
Yeah.
younger generations that can challenge us, that's so essential to this long-term work.
Right. Right. Totally.
And so when you think about that dream and that vision, in terms of sexuality specifically, what are you seeing?
Um, I'm really appreciating this I don't even know if it would call it a trend, but I've been seeing multiple things as I'm scrolling now about the unpopular experience of a girl having a boyfriend.
Mm,
And I was like, whoa, what is this? Is this just like clickbait headliner? And then I'm like reading this. I'm like, oh, this is like the Atlantic or something. I'm really like impressed because I didn't read all the articles, but the gist was saying that like it is so heteronormative and that's now uncool that you are just some basic like straight girl after a straight boy. And, we can unpack so many layers of that around orientation, around gender, but also just really appreciating that how I'm reading that, I hope, is that they're letting their instinctual desires lead them and not the scripts that
yeah.
they have been taught or have been modeled to them.
Hmm.
And that's super beautiful because we have way too many socially constructed structures that have been in place that just because someone in power made it up, we're supposed to follow it. And it's the cause of so much pain and oppression. So just, reading these headlines, I'm like, great. I don't even want to read the rest
Yeah.
of this article. It's
Yeah.
about fucking time that it
Yeah.
was uncool to just do whatever the norms and scripts told us. So,
Hmm.
where I'm seeing it go with sexuality is also really optimistic in that
Yeah.
they really are seeing the spectrum of experiences that they can subscribe to and not
Right.
just the ones that were told they have to. And
Yeah.
not out of also like spite or just to rebel, but really just like, why? That's
Yeah.
stupid.
Right.
Like, why would
Right.
you tell me I have to walk into that box just because this is what my genitalia looks like?
Hmm.
And so, it's just really encouraging.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like one of my early years teaching sex ed. I was already feeling encouraged, but it was, I think, just a special environment where it happened. I think I was doing some lesson on like, sexual attraction and orientation to
Mm-hmm.
a group of sixth graders. And, and I was very new. I was still in grad school in this work study. And at the end of the 45-minute session, one of the sixth grade boys was just like, I don't get it. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
what do you mean?
yeah.
Why is this even a lesson? Like, yeah, they're gay people. So what? And I was like, well, it's because, they don't have the same rights as, people who are straight. And we want to make sure they're like, yeah, but like, what's the big deal? Like, love who you love. Why does anyone else care?
Yeah,
And it
great.
was like a very fun, it was a very fun resistance.
Yeah.
Because I came from Catholic school. I was raised
Yeah.
in a Filipino household.
Right.
And, here's a sixth grader. I didn't even gotten sex ed yet in sixth grade in my upbringing. And I was like, this is like the best response to my sex ed class. A waste of time. Because this is so obvious. Like, why is this even a lesson that I'm taking up space where they could be doing their robotics. Like they already know sexuality is a spectrum. Why am I wasting this, a 12-year-old's time?
Absolutely.
And I was just like, wow. And it was only my second year living in New York City.
Wow.
And so I was like, is this what New York City kids are like?
Yeah.
Wow, what's sex ed gonna be like if this is it? And, I think, and I said that this was a special environment in school that I was at. So of
Right.
course I've reached a lot of resistance, met a lot of resistance.
Right.
And in New York City. But it was a really nice thing to happen early in my career so that I had like a perspective of like, you're gonna chip away for a long time in some places, and in others, you're gonna be just skipping so far ahead and be able to like live in the future now with certain groups when you live here in New York City. And that has definitely been the case because I feel like I still have to go backwards in some states where I'm hired.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm not in New York City.
Yes.
And then I'm in New York City and I'm getting slammed by the New York Post for teaching a lesson about boundaries to first graders. So, I mean, it fluctuates. But having that experience really early on was like,
Good.
oh, there is a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
And it was a nice way to get some immediate gratification of like, I'm not always going to be climbing uphill.
Absolutely.
Someone is going to offer me a rest break every so often. And that's just what I'm experiencing right now with this 12-year-old.
Yep.
So fuel up, rest, recharge
Yeah.
in this type of space, and maybe, skip a few steps with this because now I know that these students can absorb more than the basics, but then also know it's not always going to be like this.
Right. Absolutely. Such an essential point to talk about the different cultures, again, that we start in and how that creates openness, defensiveness, right? All of the things to these topics. And so especially something that's so taboo, we have to be so conscious of what is the conditioning of that person that's creating the responses. And so, yeah, I can imagine how you're getting so many different reactions across different cultural containers, which is pretty state specific in the United States, right? And so I can imagine how deep that goes. And it is such an invitation, though, to remember and be hopeful about that. And it was reminding me of the historical context that I would want to provide. Even in my training for my doctorate, there was one of my professors, Dr. Paul Larson, who talked about how when he first came into the field as a gay man, homosexuality was still a disorder within the DSM. And so he's doing his clinical rotations terrified
Right.
that if I disclose this part of my identity, I could be legally reprimanded, right? And so I think as a person in that field, as a queer person, like I forget that part of, very recently, here's my professor who was absolutely terrified when he was my age going into this field. And so like that child is like, why do we talk about it? It's like, because historically America and specifically professional fields like the APA have really weaponized and keep asking those questions, kiddo. What else are they weaponizing right now? And even if we put in the historical context of the 90s when marital rape was outlawed in all of
Yep.
the states, right? Until then, women were property that you could rape because they were an object, right? If we go back
Right.
to the 1970s with women getting the first access to credit cards, right? These are
Mm.
huge things that the 90s, that was 30
Yep.
years ago.
Yep.
The 70s, 50
Yep.
years?
Yeah. Yeah. I love the context that you're speaking to all of this because it felt refreshing that to this sixth grader, I should have framed this class as a history class because it already was in the past to them. Like, this is old news. I learned when I was 5 that I could have an uncle who's gay. Let's move on. Like, give me the next thing. And I had been under the assumption that this little New York City school was still a little school in Alabama
Yeah.
where they needed like the fundamentals. And this is current, contemporary issues and not
Yep.
a history class.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even recently, someone sent me a picture of this is interesting. It's an advertisement for like watches or something, and it was like discounts for everyone in your Polycule. And it had
Cool.
multiple. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, so we've hit the point that
Yeah.
in like this urban cityscape, we're advertising to polycules.
Right, right.
Okay, like
Yeah,
things
I've
are
seen those on the
happening.
subways in New York
Yes.
City. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. Now I have
Yeah.
a feeling my clients in rural areas
Oh,
have not
yeah.
seen this.
Or don't even know what the word means. Yeah, yeah.
Curious about your takes on the politics of that.
I don't feel like I know enough and am an expert enough to share it.
Hmm.
I think like the politics of polycules or the advertising to polycules.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about the structural locations and the narratives. Like, why is that an ad in New York and not an
Oh, I
ad in
see.
Iowa? Like, what are we looking at here in terms of our politics that makes that New York and not Iowa?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think one is like the education and exposure to, let's say in this example, like polycules is tends to be different in terms of safety to be visibly in a polycule. And so you might see that more in New York, which therefore
Yeah.
normalizes it so that then if you see it as an ad, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that once, or I've heard of that once, or I'm in one, or my friends in whatever it is, that it's not some like foreign thing. And they obviously exist in Iowa, but it's probably unsafe emotionally or even physically to market yourself as someone, who is a part of it. And therefore the closeted polycules have a right to be. And so if you were to advertise it there, I imagine it would turn a lot of heads on like, wait, what even is that? Because the
Yep.
education is lower. The exposure is lower because there's just not enough that is exposed to that type of education. And so, like, I think logically, I think it makes more sense versus it for me being like a political statement. I think it makes sense to take some steps before people are, quote, ready to receive a certain marketing campaign that they can actually understand.
Hmm.
I think New York City will not always be responsible with how they will market certain things without seeing the repercussions of them. For example, like I've seen in New York City, a lot of different like plastic surgery ads for different like firms and practices. But then instead of actually saying labiaplasty surgery, they'll call it vaginal rejuvenation. And not an ad I'll probably see in Iowa. So,
Right.
but it doesn't automatically make New York City then the healthier, better
No.
place just because they have that.
Right.
It's more like, what are you selling here? And politically, what are you trying to leverage? Oh, you
Hmm.
are trying to use this capitalist city
Yeah.
in the farthest extent by
Hmm.
further emphasizing the beauty standards that are so unrealistic, but realistic if you pay this money to completely
Yeah.
change your body. Here's how to do it.
Yeah.
Not all marketing, just because it exists, automatically means that there's a health in it.
No.
But particularly on like the Polycule ads that I've just seen, it's more like Street Easy or like Zillow will be advertising, like start looking for a new apartment. Or no, what was it? Like, the only way you can afford in New York is to have a Polycule or something, right? And so like that's how they'll use it. And for me, I'm like, this is just true. And like, sure, I'm sure they're just wanting to use these buzzwords to hit a New York City like liberal like agenda or whatever, but also that's hilarious and not wrong. And won't work in Iowa.
Right.
But yeah, so I feel like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it reminds me a lot of my work in the psychedelic space, right? There's so much oh my God, psychedelics are healing. They're so therapeutic. They're so this. They're so amazing. They're so amazing. And the reality is you can do lots of psychedelics and spiritually bypass so much of the growth that comes with that. You can do psychedelics and be really entrenched in certain ideological views and never get challenged by them. Extremist groups take psychedelics and go deeper into it. And so we have this view that like, oh yeah, sure, you've got the polycule. That doesn't mean you're actually doing it in all the ethical ways, right, that are complex to that, just as much as psychedelics. And so getting into the nuance of some of these things is that like it's really messy, and there's messy humans everywhere,
Oh my
and
God,
every identity of queer people, everyone has the
Everywhere.
work to do.
Yeah. And people are abusing also like the they're abusing what that term or what that identity means to just further serve their individual needs, and then put that on their dating app profile like there's some like super progressive, open-minded, ethical person.
Right. And then enacts a one penis policy. Like it's like, oh wow.
The number of ethical monogamists I know.
Oh, sure.
I'm just like, don't even label yourself that. I know you.
Which is fascinating because one of the representatives from Ashley Madison came on the show, and I had so much thoughts about that. I was like, do I engage in this conversation? Do I?
You have to.
Like, right. Well, that's what all my friends were like, journalistically, Nicole, go for it. And I was like, but my values of ethics, it is interesting. More recently, they've like expanded their dating site to people who are open, right? So it's not just unethical. It's also like people who are consciously choosing that. So that's a new rebranding for them that they're working through. But anyhow, I found the most important piece of this to be that they have the capital to pay therapists and researchers to do infidelity research and all of that sort of stuff. Because there's a capitalistic incentive for them. So like in a society that doesn't fund research, I am super curious. What are y'all seeing around the world? Because that's a global site. What do you see? And it was fascinating. He was like, well, in France, there's no market for this because that culture already has this incorporated understanding of multiple sexual dynamics as a part of your lifestyle. And so in France, no one's signing up. And then, in the States, what state has the highest level of users? You want to take a guess?
Let me narrow it down by region first. Is it the South? Whoa. See, I would have already gotten wrong. New York?
Utah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Repression.
I forget. I forget there's another South.
Yeah. In the Midwest? Yeah.
I literally always
Or the
forget.
Southwest,
This is the coastal elite in me. I'm just like, oh, South, that just means South. But I'm like, no, everyone in between.
So Utah, right? Utah, one of the most
that tracks. Yeah.
Mormonism. My family is Mormon. My mother is Mormon, right? Like I'm right there in terms of me getting out of that lifestyle. And so Utah is the highest user base of people seeking unethical, non-consensual, non-monogamous dynamics. So I have lots of questions about how in New York, here's the apartment for your polycule. Here's the watch for your polycule.
Yeah.
And then in Utah, we have the highest rates.
Yeah.
But literally, I'm going to say this word intentionally, God forbid you actually do that in the light.
Mm, I see, I see, I see. I'm starting to understand your initial question now better. Do I have a revised answer?
It's fascinating.
I mean, I think that goes into like the psychology of marketing
Mm-hmm.
and maybe less on the politics because I just don't trust politics to be health and education
Mm-hmm.
anyway. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. I don't know, I have
Right.
to let that one simmer.
Right, because we see this differentiation between more urban spaces, more rural
Yeah.
spaces. So
Yeah.
something is happening there in terms of, I like to think maybe exposure to different worldviews and
Right.
how that expands your consciousness of what's possible. You work through the levels of acculturation, which maybe starts with potentially disgust, fear, whatever XYZ negative response. You have that one friend who's in a polycule. You work through all your judgment. That one friend who's queer, right? Like you work through all of that judgment and then maybe get to a space of more openness. You keep seeing it, all this stuff, right? In a more rural space, you're not seeing that, right? And so you're not getting into that expansion. And so I'm thinking about like density, like truly density.
Yeah.
Like we see this in bigger cities, right? And so there is something
Yeah.
happening there.
Right. 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 I mean that is why I've chosen to root in New York City and why
Yes.
I've been so happy here for 15 years is because even though it is a city that has so many transplants, as a result of that, there's just so much beautiful flow of difference that's coming in and out constantly, quickly, and it's always changing. It's like going to a restaurant that has a different menu every day. So
Right.
you're just always going to be surprised, nourished in a new way, and expand your thinking in a new way all the time because it's different than the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And then others who love and crave that same diversity are going to be surrounding you to have that meal with you. And you get to unpack that with each other as, often or as little as you'd like. And I really love that because it's really to my parents, it's made me some extremist and they're in California, but it's
Right.
even still not as diverse as New York
Oh
City.
yeah.
And I think that's why, yeah, I think that it's created such a beautiful type of like kindness, but like an efficient kindness that can be
Mm.
interpreted as rude to people. But
Mm.
we're like efficiently kind. Like
Mm.
no bullshit. Like you're walking way too slow carrying that mattress. Just give it to me. I'll do it for you. But I'm going to do it for you because I know I've been that. I have moved apartments in the rain before
Yeah.
from that block to that block. So like we're efficiently kind. And when you see that with, sexualities, with professions, with body types, with ethnicities, like you're seeing that constantly in New York. And it's just, it normalizes diversity here.
Yeah.
That then we can see a Polycule ad and be like, yeah, I've seen it. I know it,
Yeah.
or I'm proximate to it. And therefore, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a fear of that, even if it's not
Mm-hmm.
something I am, a
Right.
part of myself.
Right.
And I really love that. And I wish more of the world got to experience that taste of New York City
Right.
because it's really healing and it's really affirming and obviously, opening.
Yep. Yep. And at first it might be really intense,
Mm,
right? Like it's like a high dose psychedelic. If you've never
totally.
seen that kind of expansion, you
Yeah.
get dropped in, you're like, wow, the walls are melting. I see queer content everywhere.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
happening? And that's when
Yeah.
like people rebound and really shut down into safety, right? And so
Right.
it's like, how do we bring that space of that message, that conversation in ways that can open people up? These are great conversations. What I think about is how liberation is found when we have a multitude of options, right?
Mhm.
When we think about the long work that feminists have done and are continuing to do, because wow, the choice to not have children. We are
Yep.
still actively doing work in this
Hmm.
country with Roe v. Wade and the whole situation to
Hmm.
have the right, the respect, the care for that. Wow. And there's so much work that feminists have done to create space for a lot of people who decide to be child free, right? And so
Yeah.
that liberation comes when we're able to say, I could choose this path of
Yeah.
child free life and I'm not going to be criticized. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
ostracized from all of my people, from my community. Now, the reality is with these sexual spaces, whether it's queerness, whether it's kink, whether it's polyamory, whether it's any of that, we currently don't have a culture where you could choose that and be accepted, which means the liberation work is still
Yeah.
here. Like we
Oh
still
yeah.
need so much more liberation work where when you see the polycule, someone doesn't go, I could never do that because I'm jealous. I want the response to be like, I don't want that in my life. It's
Mhm.
possible, but I don't want that time and energy in my life, right?
Yeah.
All of the I don't want to be queer because I couldn't do it from my parents. No, the response would be like, I'm just not queer, right? Like
Uh-huh. Right.
this
Right.
liberation work, because we know that if we put that sort of ad in Utah, they'd be like, what is that? I must go to the church or the
Yep.
temple, right? The temple, the Mormon temple.
Yep.
So pray for that.
Right. Right. Pray in a way that is, I already feel guilty even just having read it and being exposed to it. And there's all, what do I do with all this shame and guilt? And yeah, no, I love New York City because it's
I love
not
Chicago for that too.
Utah.
I love Chicago for that too. It's safety. It's so much
Yeah.
more safety. And even then,
Yeah.
you're still battling through specific things, especially the field of clinical psychology.
Hmm.
But there's so much more capacity. And we know that we're relational beings. And so our
Hmm.
well-being is found in community, in connection. And so if there is a part of yourself that if you bring that into the table, you might fear being cut off, that's one of the deepest psychological fears, right? Is being ostracized from the community. And so these pieces that we're still working for, it comes into very deeply unconscious evolutionary needs around survival.
Yeah,
And so, yeah,
totally.
I'm not gonna go to that play party because what happens if this happens? What happen? Like, there's so much unconscious risk that exists both in the mind and the body
Hmm.
that happens.
Hmm. Yeah, it's real.
I gotta take a deep breath for that one.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes as a host, I'm always like, next topic, right? But it's like that's something to breathe into, how
Yeah.
much that's impacting all of us in
Hmm.
unconscious ways.
Hmm.
And so when you think about your expertise, your wisdom, a lot of people have asked me on the podcast, how do I talk about this with children? Now, I feel tapped out at that level because I work with adults. I have lots of clients who are adults. I work with many therapists who come to see me for this work. Like, I don't work with kids. What my working understanding is how we bring in discussions of pleasure that are age appropriate. So
Yeah.
maybe if you're like combing your child's hair, like asking them, how does this feel for you? Is there anything I could do that could make this feel better? Like bringing like just pleasure conversations around bodily autonomy and
Yeah.
consent. But I'm curious with your expertise, like how do you see having those conversations? I know that's a huge question, but like what are some of the wisdom pieces that you've learned in your work?
Yeah. That kids love talking about pleasure, and they might not use that term, but they have plenty of synonyms and they have plenty of lived experiences, fortunately, where they can understand that what I'm trying to convey to them around pleasure is something that they need to now start applying as a way to assess their friendships and their
Mm,
relationships, and if they conjure the same type of joy, fun, happiness that this example they came up with to share with the class, you know, is real.
mm-hmm.
So it might be something like, a lot of it is really like naming and giving them vocabulary and language around pleasure. I really never use the term pleasure because it's again it's not developmentally aligned with where they're at, but they know fun, they know happy, they know
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah.
And so, or if they can't describe it, I push on to ask them like, it's really cold out, right? And you got your mittens on, you got your beanie on, you have your puffer jacket, you have your wool socks, but your face is still exposed because you're not wearing a face mask and you have this blizzard that you're going through, but you finally make it inside your apartment and your parent hands you a hot cocoa in your favorite mug. When you take a sip of that, how do you feel? And like immediately their faces just light up and like, and they're not saying pleasure, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah.
saying, I feel calmer, I feel happy, I feel relaxed, I feel excited, whatever it is. And I'm like, but you know that feeling that you have? That sense of, yearning for this, but you're out like, trudging through the snow and you finally get that hot cocoa. You have this feeling, right? Now tell me what you're thinking about when that happens. It's like, oh, it reminds me of when I had hot cocoa with my best friend, at our birthday party. It reminds me during Christmas where I have it with my family. I'm like, and how do those moments make you feel when you think about that? And they're like, well, happy because I'm with my best friend, or happy because I'm with my family. Like everyone was laughing and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that, my friends, is the adult word pleasure. And then we'll get other examples like, and I'll set the scene of like you're holding in your pee in this car ride
Yeah.
for a whole hour. And your parent says that there is no exit for another 30 minutes. What's happening in your body right now? And then like, well, I'm moving around a lot. I'm like, I have my hands around my tummy and I'm trying to squeeze my legs together so it doesn't come out. I'm like really like anxious and da 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 da, whatever. Okay, you finally pull up at a gas station and then you get into that bathroom. And then what do you feel when you finally let it out and you can finally pee? And they all like, without even me saying, they all like just like release this audible gasp,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, whoa, what's this sound you're all making now? And then they're like, well, it's just like relieved. And I'm like, that's also pleasure. And so like I'm giving just them all of these examples that they've already had and then giving them vocabulary. Now we transition. We have all these examples of this adult big kid word named pleasure. What does this have to do with our friendships? Are these people that you're playing with, do they give you that same feeling, that hot cocoa feeling, that relief feeling, that joy, that happiness, that laughter feeling? And in what ways could they show that to you? Well, like when I'm having a hard time, they'll, talk to me, they'll hang out with me, or they do my favorite hobbies with me. And what does it feel like when you need those things, but they give you the opposite of that? What does the opposite of that feel like? And they're like, well, they're mean to me. They don't let me play. They don't invite me. They say something rude. And I'm like, is that what a friend does? Let's define what a friend is. So it's really a vocabulary lesson to attach to experiences they've already had.
Right.
And then it turns into a relationship assessment. Is your relationship healthy? And like we're doing this in first grade classrooms. Obviously, I can do the same thing in a seventh grade classroom. The examples are just slightly different.
Right.
We've already known to be doing this in high school classrooms around, sexual abuse prevention in their
Right.
relationships, domestic violence when we're talking about, adult couples. Like all of this is, developmentally congruent. It's just how do you talk about it to a 6-year-old versus a 16-year-old versus
Right.
a 36-year-old? But Fox News is scared of the word pleasure and kids. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
talking about hot cocoa and having to pee really badly. And that's what you're canceling me for.
Did that happen?
Oh yeah, it happened bad. It happened bad. You can Google
Damn.
my name, New York Times, and that's the
Shit.
real narrative.
Shit.
But it all started because of 11th grade lesson I gave about pornography literacy and a first grade lesson that I gave around body awareness and genitals. And parents thought, you're teaching first graders how to masturbate and you're wasting 11th graders' time talking about showing porn when they should be studying for the AP history exam. And that was enough for all of Fox News and the alt-right to bash me for a year, which led to my resignation at the school that I was a director of health and wellness for 9 years, which led to my freelance career, which is how you ended up learning of me because of the work I've been doing as a small business owner now.
Wow.
But that's what I was teaching. And that's what I'm still teaching, but now just on my own terms, calling my own
Yeah.
shots in schools that are
Wow.
ready to back up that
Oh,
curriculum.
wow. The listeners could not see my face and how much my jaw was dropped during that entire life. I was like, no. I'm so glad that you're
Yeah.
doing the work that you're doing. It's so needed, and it's such a reflection of the long history of feminists getting in trouble.
hmm hmm Yeah, this is old news. This is old news. I just
Hmm.
happen to be the target of 2021. Yeah.
And let's be clear, the research shows masturbation typically occurs can really young ages. We
Oh,
know
yeah.
like 2 to 6, but
Yep.
even younger in just terms of touching body, not
Yep.
necessarily full masturbation, but touching body and genitals and feeling
Yep.
pleasure. And so I,
Yep.
I find it really fascinating how people are like, oh my God, not the children. But it's like
Yep.
we
Like this is
scientifically know.
normal.
Yeah.
Right. This is normal and it's not sexual most of the time. It's
Right.
curiosity, it's
Right.
adjusting to not having a diaper anymore. It's a new sensation in their growing body of a zipper touching it versus, little babies are getting erections when their diaper is being changed simply because there's touch involved. Has nothing to do with this 3 month old being turned on by their babysitter. They have no awareness of what's happening. It's just their body responding like a human. That's it,
Hmm.
right? But adults are just so cringe around kids and their normal bodily functions, automatically not empathizing with a kid's body, but empathizing as if this kid is a full adult,
Mm,
and then remembering they're not an adult, and then
mm,
therefore calling it inappropriate.
mm,
Like even
hmm.
just like there's parents are so scared of the where do babies come from question because they're not remembering that their child is a child asking a geography question, whereas this adult is thinking about intercourse after a date, after a bottle of wine, and many other adult things in their answer. It's like, hold on, this child is just asking a geography question. That's it. Babies come from a uterus.
Hmm.
End of story. You know what their next question is going to be? When's lunch?
Right.
Can I go and play my Legos now?
Right.
But they're hyperbolizing their answer suited for another adult that they think they have to tell a 6-year-old. That's not what this is. You're talking to a 6-year-old. Think about what a 6-year-old is thinking about only
Right.
and their
Right.
world. But
Hmm.
it's just so uncomfortable for people where, they would rather just attack that situation and call it inappropriate, predatory, pedophilic, which is a complete misuse of those terms because this very type of education is exactly what prevents predators from
Right.
predating because now they are confronted with a child that actually knows how their body works.
Oh,
And they're
yeah.
empowered by knowing its functions and being able to name what parts they have. So should you ever dare touch it without their permission, they'll know exactly what to tell their trusted adults because they
Yep.
know exactly the part you touch that you are not supposed to touch because they did not
Yep.
allow you to touch it. And we know that sexual predators have said, these are the kids I can't predate
Right.
because they're not vulnerable, they're empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
yet, education around this to protect children is being called sexual predation.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, me having to resign from my school. And me being so many teachers that are doing this important work and being compromised as a result was just further empowers the predators because there are less educators who are able to do this work because they're afraid of their principals, of their parent community, of Fox News canceling
Yep.
them.
Yep. Yep. The politics.
Remember when I said I was a tired sex educator?
Oh, but
All that.
I love it. I love that fire because it's so needed. I've had conversations on this podcast with other sex Soleil, who was a sex therapist who got fired from their job from doing sex education with the puppet and literally was told that that was inappropriate, fired immediately on the spot. It was a big corporate, like similar.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of stories of sex educators who repeatedly have to face these larger systemic pieces and then ultimately end up creating their own ecosystem because
Yep.
these systems are so, that is a huge part of the journey of anyone in this space of
Yeah.
going, wow, I walked into a few of those bureaucratic red tapes.
Yep.
Holy shit, right? And
Yep.
so you got to create your own space. And it's so wild to think about how wise and perceptive children are because the beginning of shame and repression, all of that stuff starts right there. And that's not to say that it's permanent, right? Like you're
Right.
proof of that. I'm proof of that you can absolutely work through those upbringings and change to a different space.
Yeah.
However, when your parent comes to you, say you're someone with a vulva, right? And you're a child asking, well, what are my parts? What are my parts? And you go, oh, those are your private parts. We don't talk about that. That whisper, that moment of the shame, that is the beginning. And children attune to what is around them. And so when you're able to come in as a parent and say, this is your labia, this is your clitoris, right? These are parts that are yours and other people don't touch, right? Like that, as you're saying, is what's empowering them. And it's already beginning that space where they don't feel the shame because you're right. A predator comes in and now there's all this, well, we don't talk about those parts. So this thing happened to this part we don't talk about.
Yep. Yep. Yes. It seems so obvious and yet so hard for many adults to just accept. And their own shame around this and their own repression around this without saying they're oppressed, repressed, or shameful around it just gets passed down from their tone, their avoidance, their own body language, and lack thereof around, something that is just so normal and human and is the cause of so much pain if it's really not addressed in the way that it should be, which is normalized.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is where, again, my work in psychedelic assisted psychotherapy really comes to the forefront because these are deeper questions about bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
And so what we do know is that research shows harm reduction, drug education prevents overdoses, right? It prevents that sort of use. And so when we are withholding that sort of education out of fear that it will promote more children using drugs, what we're actually doing is creating the circumstances where they have no education around this, right? Yeah. And the reality is there are many drugs that are legal, including alcohol, a huge one that many children drink too much to overdose, excess, ending
Yep.
up in the hospitals, there's a car, right? Like the
Right.
whole list, right? And so the need for drug education across so many different capacities there. We see other countries which have normalized different drug use and given that education, and we see less rates of drug
Hmm.
use, right? And so it's like these areas of bodily autonomy, whether it's sexuality or the drugs that we're putting in our body, where we have such restricted narratives of what is possible, and it's ultimately leading to even more harm, right? Rather
Yeah.
than going into the center of the issue and say, hey, people use drugs. Blow your mind. Just gonna blow
Yep.
your mind right now. People
Yep.
use drugs. Don't forget, alcohol used to be one of the forbidden ones for a good time in America. Like,
Yep.
people use drugs. How do we do that safely? People have sex. People have genitals. People want to play. They want to have
Yep.
pleasure. How do we do that safely?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so the burnout, let's talk about that. When I
Yes.
get burnt out, my libido is out. It is no longer present. I don't want to fuck. I just
Yeah.
want to lay down. I want to be held by my partners and given
Yeah.
some chocolate. I don't know. How do
Yeah.
you like deal with that level of burnout and your own
Yeah.
eroticism?
How do I deal with that? I start looking for other jobs. Um, and I think like I never thought about it in this way, so I'm really glad you're asking it because it's super timely.
Mm-hmm.
I I've been burnt out for a while, but I think I've only started to do something actively about it because I am relying on my libido to make a child. And I've never wanted to make a child until this year.
Mm.
And now that I'm like, okay, I have a new like goal in my life, which is to become a parent. If I want to do that, what are the ways? Okay, I can do that with intercourse. I can do that with IVF. I can do that with, wait a minute, I need a libido working for any of this.
Mm.
I need
Yep.
energy. I need desire. I need drive. I need
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
And I don't have time for any of that, or there's none of it left because it's being completely consumed in this taxing job that I've chosen, ironically, in sex.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, you've always been burnt out, but now it matters because it's
Yeah.
impacting your ability to actually create a family now that you're ready for it and want it. And so it has, there's been stress around, should I leave it completely? Should I do a little bit of other things? Because I'm clearly passionate still, but I don't know if I have enough fuel
Mm.
to sustain it anymore. But I want to do a little bit. What is something that can sustain me? Well, I have,
Mm.
other pleasures and I have other interests. Maybe I can start tapping some of those that aren't as, hard on my body, like
Yeah.
the, speaking tours that I'll be on that I'll have to fly and be out of town for, or the long-term projects that are just so time consuming and very like academic and not maybe as social. So I'm like starting to trim with the different ways I can still be a sex educator that isn't through traditional settings of speaking, being in a classroom, training, facilitating, designing curriculum. And
Yeah.
so my answer to the burnout is keep a foot in sex education, but start to explore other ways that that one foot can be present
Yeah.
and start looking at some other things that Justine and Fonte is about. That's not
Yeah.
just as a sex educator. And maybe she will return to a vibrancy and a vitality that she might have that might awaken my
Yeah.
eggs in a way
Yeah.
that, is positive. So, a lot of that is super recent in wanting to do that. And I think, now having already had my first miscarriage is another reminder of like, okay, see, so the plumbing works, yay. But what are you still not doing in your life
Right.
to create the peace and the pleasure that are required to host this embryo for 9 months? And so I'm like, okay, Justine, inside Justine, I'm listening and I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to do something about this.
Oh, yeah.
So, been been on Indeed.com and
Yeah.
just seeing like what is out there in the world that I can monetize from skills that I already have.
Right.
So that's how I've been addressing the burnout. No, I mean, this is so brand new, and maybe when this, episode comes out, I'll already have like executed on a lot of
Yes.
these. That would be awesome.
Yes. Let's speak it into existence.
Right. But I'm a public speaker. I am someone who loves therefore to either MC events or host events or be, the face and voice behind other events or be, behind the audiobook. So I'm just like, all right, it might have nothing to do with sex ed, but
Yeah.
maybe it's, something else that requires a dynamic, charismatic voice about something that isn't aligned with my values, but not sex education work.
Right.
I've been a maid of honor 3 times. I've been an MC at a wedding 3 times. Maybe I should just be a bridesmaid for hire on the
Wow.
side. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll just become like, you know, Adam Sandler wedding, MC instead of
What's the
singer.
hourly rate? Yeah.
I'm like, I can do those things.
Yeah.
And, I can do them super well. I've
Yeah.
just done it for cousins and best friends.
Right.
So I didn't make money off of that, but maybe I should. So, I'm like looking at all different types of
Yeah.
options
Yeah.
just to like keep my spirit alive and be reminded like not everything has to be centered on sex ed, even though I've tried to make my life that way.
On it. Right, absolutely. And so the dreaming, the possibilities, the creativity, I mean, that's Eros, right? That life force connection, the possibilities. And it sounds
Right.
like there's something I've definitely talked a lot about on the podcast, that concept of how your pleasure evolves over time and also the grief with that. The exploration, wow, so much joy, this ever evolving relationship to pleasure, and every
Right.
day it's new. And also the grief where you're like, wow, I used to this, whether it was a fantasy, a job, a relationship, right? This type of sex that you're having, like there's this thing that turned me on for so long, and where I'm at in the here and the now, it's not aligned anymore. And you have to grieve that part of yourself because there's scenes I used to have that turned me on so much. And I would love to have that level of just, like when coming from purity culture, anything around sexuality was so charged.
Right.
And like I loved how turned on wow.
Mm.
However, I don't love what came with all that, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But like there's a grief process where like when you study
yeah.
sex every single day,
Yeah.
when I hear about something, when I watch porn, my first thoughts aren't always like, wow, hot. It's like theoretical research and how does this apply to my, like there's a grief process
Right.
for
I
what
know.
that is.
Yeah.
And so like for you, it's like this evolving conversation where you're thinking about like, what is that next door so that I can find balance in my life? Because you've gone to such a depth with this work that so many people will never understand.
Yeah.
And also, where is your next balance? And as you're saying, your body is this space where you're wanting to carry another human being and having that ecosystem. For myself, I've been so passionate about this work. I'm like, I'm working unhealthy amount of hours. Let's just name that. I love what I do, but like I'm in a very classic early stage of a career. Wow, so go. And also, I've been struggling with BV. Reoccurrent BV, and the doctors keep telling me like stress is a huge part of this, Nicole. Are you relaxed? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I love working around sexuality, yet here I am working so hard in it that my own pussy is saying, absolutely not, no one's going in there.
Yep.
So I'm like,
Yep.
no.
Yep. Yep.
No. Oh shit. Right. So like wanting to have the baby, wanting to have the penetration, it's like I have to take my own medicine, which is like, where is the balance in this work? You can't just work yourself so hard to the bone for the activism of all the world of what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. The burnout is real.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
burnout is
And
real.
I can still do a lot with my clit, right? That's the big thing I've been
Yeah,
going through is
yeah.
like, I don't need penetration right now, but that clit is great. It's got a lot of capacity.
Like you brought up something around like I think when you're saying when you're watching porn, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
theoretical frameworks
Yeah.
and the same way with like like not just sitting in an entertainment and being entertained by it, but intellectualizing it and figuring out how can I use this in a curriculum, right?
I
Do
know,
something
I
with it.
know.
It's just like Justine, just watch the damn
I
movie
know, I
and not
know.
like how you're going to unpack it with your students for a media literacy lesson. And in that same way, literally on Sunday, which was 4 days ago, I was at a pleasure parts and crafts workshop.
Cool.
And it was like a holiday edition that my friend was running. And so had all of these art supplies. And we were supposed to like, not supposed to, but we were invited to, use any of these supplies and, maybe, build your own vulva, build your
Yeah.
own like clitoris, build your own whatever you want. But here's like felt, here's pipe cleaner, here's glitter glue, like those what is it, those wobbly
Yeah, yeah,
eyeballs kind
yeah.
of things, like jingle bells. There's so many different thingies. And so, and then she had her template of like, for example, here's how I made, this vulva. And so everyone's working on them. Even my own partner was like building this beautiful vulva to put on top of the tote bag that we were gifted. And then another friend was making brooches for
Yeah.
her and her wife. And I was like looking, I'm like, "Ugh," and I'm artistic in a different way, not in this
Totally.
way.
Yep.
But I'm like looking, I'm like, God, I don't know what to make. I don't know what to make. And then she like taught us like, well, if you want, here's pipe cleaner. Here's how I make a clitoris out of it. And so she does it or whatever. And she goes, and this would be really cute. You can put it right on top of your like Christmas gifts, and it can be kind of your ribbon.
I
And then
love
when she
that.
said that, I was like, oh, caregiving, gift giving, doing something for other people instead of for myself. I know that really well. I'm just going to make up a whole bunch of pipe cleaner clits for my gift wrapping. So everything I'm making will not stay with me and is not for me. I'm
Mm.
immediately making it and now have this
Mm.
drive and this motivation and an
Mm.
incentive to please others with the literal clits that I'm making for not myself.
Yeah.
And I made 14, Dr. Nicole, it was very
Wow.
fast. But what I'm saying is everyone else made one or two for themselves at this pleasure crafts session. And I could not think of anything just to make for myself because it was pleasing to me. The only thing that pleased me was to make a gift tool for somebody else. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Yeah. It all hits at that moment. You're like, whoa, it's here.
Like one of my best friends will gift me thank you cards, like blank thank you cards, because she's like, you never like anything that I give you, but I know that what will make you really happy is buying you expensive thank you cards because you love giving thank you cards to people. But you don't have to
Yeah.
spend the money at Papyrus for it because it's
Yeah.
Papyrus. So let me gift you with cards you're going to give someone
Wow.
else.
Wow.
And when she gave this to me, I was like, oh my God, I love this gift.
Ah, you did, of course.
I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why can't I just
Ah.
receive
Mm.
and have this for myself?
Mm.
And there was another instance, a friend of mine was like, Justine, you need to think of something that is just for you. I was like, yeah. I
Yeah.
signed up for a leather wallet making, like crafternoon. And he's like, okay. So I did it. I made two cute wallets. And he's like, no, no, no. And he was there with me. And he's just like, initially I was gonna make, oh, I think I want to make a clutch.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah,
be a
yeah,
really
yeah.
cute gift for my
Right.
cousin. And he goes,
Yeah.
no, make something for yourself. And I was like, but I don't need anything. And he goes, you don't need to keep it. You just need to do this exercise and build something for yourself. This is you being here for yourself. And like it was so hard, but I was like, okay, okay, okay. I'll make a business card holder.
No.
My business cards.
Oh no.
And that was the closest I could get to making something
Yeah.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two rinky-dink, leather
Amazing.
wallet business card holders that I made, but without him like pushing me, I would have ended up making clutches for all my cousins.
Right, right, right.
And it's just like you're already doing this crafternoon session for yourself to decompress, to relax, just have fun, get to know strangers in this New York City workshop. And again, you're there to work, to give to somebody else. And it's so ingrained in me. Like my gift giving language is so strong that it's now become my pleasure. Where like I love gift giving,
Yeah.
but I won't gift to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the pattern, right? You've done that for so many years of your life, right? And so, in this podcast space, I've loved asking people what they would say to their younger self. And in this moment, I feel an invitation to ask you, Justine. This podcast is going to come out many months from now. What do you want to say to your future self who's going to tune in and hear this?
Okay, I'm going to phrase it in a way that will make me feel guilty if it didn't happen. So it's kind of like my accountability thing. Like if I'm going to say it now, it means I'm going to have to do it so I won't feel guilty later.
Yes, yes.
Justine, 6 months from now, I am so proud of you for choosing joy for yourself by gifting yourself things, whether it's material or experiential or emotional, that only serve you and aren't for somebody else.
Yeah.
And that you did it more than twice in these in the past 6 months. And that it inspired you to do it again for these next 6 months.
May it be so. When you hear this back, may it be so.
Let's hope. Let's hope. I said it, so now it has to happen.
Oh, yeah. I always
I'm
do.
very driven by guilt as a beautiful Filipino Catholic daughter.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a Catholic coming out.
So I'm like, okay, use it in the
Use it
way that
appropriately.
actually benefits you. Guilt trip yourself in the most productive, uplifting, empowering way.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
This is how I rig the system.
Yeah, totally. You have to. I play with myself too. Like when I come into the recording, I have a little bit of a recording intro. That's just me talking to my future self. Like, hey, I hope you're relaxing, dancing. Hope you're coming hard. Hope you're having a great time. And I see it in a couple of months. I'm like, oh shoot, I did not.
I
oh
didn't
no.
do that.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll play with the time capsule here, but I feel confident you'll be there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, Justine, as we're coming towards the end of our time for today, I'm going to take a deep breath with you. And check in and see if there's anything else you want to share with the listeners. Otherwise, I can guide us towards our closing question.
I've said this in a tweet a while back, and I feel like this particular episode's conversation really aligns with it, that I want to share it and remind myself that I've said this, that I need to live by it too, which is the first step of experiencing pleasure is recognizing that you deserve it. And I've said this before, but now in context of our conversation, in the little moments where you've chosen to gift give, to care give, to give pleasure to others, Justine, know that you are also deserving of that, and you can care give and gift give to Justine.
Yeah.
Don't forget to do that.
Right.
And that can be fun too.
Right. There's the balance.
Yeah.
The reciprocity.
Yeah.
Such a good invitation for you, for me, certainly, and for all of the listeners who are tuning in to find that balance between the giving and the receiving that we all deserve in this life for our longevity of this work that we're doing as political activists in this space.
Well, thank you for prompting it. I don't think
Of
I would have thought
course.
of that statement that I have preached
Oh yeah.
in this way after this conversation without it. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. Such a joy. Such a joy. Well, Justine, the last question that I ask everyone on the show is, what is one thing that you wish other people knew was more normal?
Hmm. Miscarriages. Because I already knew they were normal, I think my experience of my most recent one was not as painful as a result, but actually empowering, knowing like the plumbing worked and here's what needs to happen going forward versus shame, blame, guilt that it happened
Yeah.
and that I caused it.
Right.
And I think if more people knew that was normal, they might have a similar experience of, okay, that sucks. And now what do I do about it? Versus internalizing a blame that is false about yourself.
Huge. Huge. And it's so normal in the first 3 months that it's often not even
Yeah.
considered a miscarriage, right?
I, actually, a
As I said
doctor
first.
called it to me. What do you call it? So when was your abortion? And I was like,
Oh,
oh, I mean, yeah, I guess it's called a
fascinating.
spontaneous
There
abortion
it is. Yeah, that's the
also.
word. Yeah, 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 yeah,
But this was
yeah.
also in Texas when it happened, and
Oh,
anything
yeah.
that where an
The
embryo
A
doesn't make
word.
it,
Yeah.
they're just calling it all an abortion. Um,
Whoa.
but yeah, I mean, they'll call it like, they did call it a miscarriage, early
Mm,
pregnancy miscarriage. They have
mm,
called it a spontaneous abortion.
mm.
But yeah, I just think in general, like if I didn't already
Yeah.
know, it was almost a quarter of pregnant
Right.
people before I started my fertility journey, I would have felt very different.
Oh, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, like a lot of the emotion that came from, you don't have to include this part
Oh,
unless you want
please. I
to.
want to. Yeah.
A lot of the emotion that came from my early pregnancy miscarriage was more on like as a sex educator
Mm.
and again as a caregiver
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
like, fuck, I'm actually now experiencing a thing that I've talked and taught about in
Right.
my past. And I'm also privy to so much of the politics, the anti-feminism,
Yeah.
and all of this like societal strife that falls under this experience that now that it's something that I'm going through, I really hate that it can't just be about, oh, the embryo didn't make it, but
Yeah.
I have to think about my identity as a woman, as a
Yeah.
daughter, as a as a person who's trying to get pregnant in a reproductively
Yeah.
geriatric stage. I have to
Yeah.
think about what state this is happening in. I have to think
Yeah.
about what kind of doctor in America under our healthcare system I have helping me through this. And it's
Yeah.
just like, fuck. And
Yes.
like, and I discovered it in the bathroom on my break from a brunch
Whoa. Whoa. A
with
lot.
someone I'm not wanting to openly share it with because I want to
Oh.
take care of them because I know they are gonna be traumatized that
Yeah.
or feel obligated to take care of me when I'm actually like, oh shit, I'm spotting. And then immediately I just started thinking about the world and how the
Yes.
world regards miscarriages and the people who experience them. And my friend, I have to go back to finishing my, eggs Benedict with
Yeah.
versus me just being like, oh shit, I got to text my partner and let him know. And that be the only thing I have to focus on. So the emotion at the airport when I was leaving after the brunch
Uh,
was so much just about like, this world sucks
yeah.
around birth and fertility and pregnant people and expectations and just so many things. It was about that. And not just
Yeah.
like what my body experienced and that be the only thing. So that was just a really insightful experience that I didn't think I would have. And also just like I also like love seeing how people react and the diversity in how people react to this because it also tells me a lot about their own history and experience with
Yeah.
proximity or directly with miscarriage. And I've actually found that anyone in the sexuality field that I have shared my miscarriage with have all reacted the same, which is very much like, yeah, it's normal. Like, how you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh my God, I will pray for you. Or like,
Mm.
my dad, what did you do to cause
Oh
this?
God, really? Fuck.
I
Okay.
love you, Pops,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, 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 yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And so it's really mind-boggling the reactions that I'm getting and how affirming it is that the people in the sexuality reproductive health space are like, are you good? And you're normal, you know that. And their face being like, I'm following where you're at with it,
Yep. Yep.
as opposed to, like a parent scared of pleasure in their kids and
Yeah.
whispering and
Yeah, yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
tone, just
Yeah.
being like, you tell me where you want this conversation to go.
Right.
Like, are you good?
Right.
And I'm sure it would have been different if it was like a 4, 5, 6 month
Yeah.
pregnancy,
Right.
right? But they let me continue to captain that ship on where this
Hmm.
conversation goes.
Beautiful.
And so that's been really interesting, like seeing a sex educator or a sexologist respond versus my parent
Yeah.
or my cousin or,
Yeah.
like a random family friend that I ran into at the grocery store.
Right.
But yeah,
Uh,
it was a lot only because I was thinking about miscarriage and society, not
everything. Yeah.
my miscarriage.
Right, right. Because your work is so at the heart of the personal, which is something I can deeply relate with. Every single relationship conflict I'm going through, I'm like, here's my work right here. Oh my
Right.
God. Right. And so it brings up so much. And yeah, it reminds me of the child who scrapes their knee,
Mm.
right? Falls off the scooter, looks back at parents and says, waits for their reaction. If the parent goes, oh, then the kid, oh no, right? And so it's such a reflection of how relational we are. And so
Yeah.
you're right. When you are going to these sex educators, they're like, yeah, and so how are you versus your parents, these other reactions. And so it's an invitation for all of us, I think, to be curious about who are the people that you're putting into your life. The
Yeah.
listeners who are tuning in want this sort of
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
So, like, hey, so happy to be here with you. Like, such a joy.
Yeah.
And the continued consciousness of who you put in your circle creates your reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. And I often choose my circle to be circa New York City
Yeah.
as a result.
I hear you. I hear you. Justine, well, it's been such a joy to have you on the podcast today. So
Yeah.
much
Thank you for
fun.
having me, Dr. Nicole.
Yes, yes. Where can all of the listeners find you and the work that you're doing? Where can they follow you through this evolution of your next chapter?
My website is JustineFonte.com. You can follow me on socials at I'm Justine AF. And I have an Audible out called How to Talk to Your Kids About Sex. Would love some reviews that aren't only from my trolls who gave it 1 star.
Oh, God.
And I'm a co-editor of a brand new academic textbook that was just released this past summer from Routledge Press.
Nice.
And would love more people in the sexuality field to get their hands on it. It's Fundamental Concepts and Critical Developments in Sex Education. We have a whole Justice League lineup of authors who contributed to it. And We are looking forward to its being in college campuses, in more clinicians' offices, and in more sex educator classrooms.
Oh, amazing. And listener, I'll have all of that linked in the show notes below so you can find all of those pathways to follow Justine, learn more about her work. And again, thank you, Justine, for coming on to the show today.
Thank you so much for your trust in me to have me on.
Yeah, such a joy. Dear listener, thank you so much for tuning in to Modern Anarchy. Thank you for sharing this episode with your friends, with your lovers, with your community. Truly, it means so much to me, and I am so grateful that you are here. If you are wanting to release jealousy in your non-monogamous dynamics and step into compersion and pleasure-filled connection, you can read my book, The Psychedelic Jealousy Guide, for free on my website. There you will also find so many other free resources, including worksheets on how to clearly communicate and set commitments and boundaries within your non-monogamous dynamics, and other ways to practice clear communication about your sexual desires so that you can step into your most pleasure-filled sex and relationships. So head on over to modernanarchypodcast.com to find all of those free resources. And I look forward to seeing you next week.